Here.
All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 28th meeting. Second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? They're approved, Ms. Dean. I believe we're not having any presentations or reports. I do want to announce we're going to have a short executive session after this meeting for personnel reasons. And I would like to have someone make a motion. We need to amend item C on the consent agenda where it is worded, move to grant permission for the administration to advertise and rent. We need to have it worded to advertise for rent. So can we have a motion do we have a second?
A second.
And can we go ahead and do roll call on
I'll
that?
have some discussion
Okay.
on the item itself.
Can we discuss, because I'm gonna pull it to discuss it.
Pull it at that time.
Okay.
We can pull it when we get to the consent agenda.
Okay.
We just wanted to put that up front before any public comment.
All right.
Yeah, this
We'll
was,
pull it and discuss.
this was just to change the wording. We're not to the consent agenda, this is just changing wording. So, can you do, yeah, roll call on
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiscato?
Yes.
Mr. LaFever?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
that? Yes.
Mrs. Meixel?
Yes.
Mr. Whitcomb?
Yes.
Mr. Hack?
Yes, thank you all. I understand we're not going to do student. Are we
Well,
gonna
she's
do-
here
We
now,
are,
so-
okay, Ms. Big, go ahead.
We weren't going to because we didn't think we were going to have any.
Thank you for coming on a day off.
Yeah, well, the one thing I have to report is that the play this year is going to be It's a Wonderful Life, the classic Christmas movie,
Yeah.
and it's going to be on November 13th and 14th. And it's
Fantastic,
going very well. We have more people than we anticipated,
great,
which is
great, thank you.
great.
All right, we're not doing building celebrations tonight, or, no? Okay, let's move right on to public comment. And first up to bat is Dean Thomas. Mhm.
I'd like to comment to you about the new bus parking area and the good news. I'm sorry I couldn't attend your last meeting, but I was watching the boys' soccer team win their game. They also won this afternoon, and my oldest grandson scored 5 goals.
Wow, great.
But anyway, if I had been here, I would have told you what I found out about the new bus parking area near the stadium. After I filled out a right-to-know request, I received a call from Ms. Dean, and we met in her office. She gave me a copy of the lease agreement with Jacoby Transportation for the lot. The bus company is paying you $1 for the term of the lease. Jacoby paid for all cleanup of the lot, the new resurfacing, and the fuel tank, not 500 gallons, but 3,000 gallons. Jacoby has a certificate of liability insurance and received all proper permits for the tank. Jacoby purchases the fuel and pays the appropriate state taxes. The fuel tank has a time lock installed on it to help prevent unauthorized use, and Ms. Dean and I thought a padlock would also make it appear that it is always locked, which has been installed. The perimeter needs some improvement for security of the buses, and Ms. Dean is well aware of it and working on it. A sign at the entrance now advises that it is a restricted area and no unauthorized persons are admitted. The bottom line is Ms. Dean deserves our thanks. The board, on the other hand, would just as soon have left us in the dark, again. But in 22 days, we will have the next general election, and the good news is that the majority of you won't be reelected or appointed, and won't be seated on December 7th. Thank you, Ms. Dean.
All right, Mary Walters.
Yes, I have a few questions. I read in the newspaper that you were considering keeping the McDonald House for educational purposes, and it made me stop and think about several things. Is the school district allowed to get donations of material items and so forth and so on, for the improvement of that property if it were to be kept for an educational facility?
We'll answer, or,
Oh, okay,
yeah, this is not a two-way discussion right now.
okay, fine. The other thing is, has anybody since Mr. McDaniel's death, and I understand the assessment is rather high on the property, and that the taxes per year are rather high, and I was wondering if anybody has thought about, or if there's any intention of filing for an assessment appeal to the county commissioners to get the value. If the property is not worth any more than you all quoted, or thought, or were convinced by some realtor that it was, whether, and I think probably the assessed value could be lowered by the county commissioners. It's a case of applying, going to a hearing, and pleading your case, and therefore you'd have less tax money to pay out for that property, which seemed to be one of the concerns at one of the early meetings, is the amount of taxes that were being paid. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's all for public comment.
Can I ask a question
Sure,
concerning her statement?
yes.
Do we pay taxes on that property?
We do pay county, fire, and municipal, and that's about $1,400. Because that property is not classified right now as, I mean, somebody was living in it. So we couldn't say it was educational or belonged to the district like the other property. The other property, we don't pay taxes on.
Right, okay.
Now, as for the total tax is $4,007, but the difference between $4,007 and the $1,400, we basically pay to ourselves.
Right, right.
So, it really,
So knows the answer.
Pretty much.
Okay, let's go to the committee reports. Bruce, do you have anything from?
We met shortly after the property meeting. I'll let maybe talk about the property part. One of the comments during the financial meeting was that we consider a rent for, until spring, and then possibly put the property up for sale at that time. And at least this way to defer some of the cost, and we wouldn't have to heat it, and we wouldn't have to maintain with the snowplow getting back in there. Security's always an issue, because it's out of sight, out of mind. Those were some of the comments on it. And that's basically it.
Property committee.
Well, Bruce summed it up, pretty much. That's what the proposal from the property committee is to, for the winter months anyhow, to to rent the property out, to cover some of the expense of the property, and also to maintain it over the winter where the pipes don't freeze and stuff like that. And then, in the spring, if the district so chooses to do so, they could look at relisting it with a realtor for sale if they decide to go forward that way, or if they want to use it for something else. At least over the winter months, we would have someone in there to take care of the price and keep it up. Because if it's sitting empty, it's just going to go to shambles. We did a tour of it on Wednesday, and the property is not as in dire straits or in condition as we were originally led to believe. The upstairs of the place definitely could use remodeling, but the downstairs can absolutely be used for rental. And so that was the recommendation of the property committee, is that we would consider renting this place out for the winter months.
Okay.
We also talked about the playground. Carolyn Dean had told us that we had 2 inspectors came in and inspected the playground. We're waiting for, Liberty Mutual was one of them, that came in, and we're waiting for their reports to come back as far as on that. Until the reports come back, the playground will continue to be kept closed, and we'll make a decision further on that. And as Mr. Dean has spoke to too, the tanks and all do have padlocks on them. There's surveillance cameras up there, there's signs up there to let everyone know that that is a restricted area. And they're going forward and trying to make that, everybody aware that they need to stay out of there. Some of the other things that we talked about a little bit and just discussed at the elementary roof later on will need some attention. Parking lot for ceiling, which is, some of those things are already budgeted for, and I think in Karen's 5-year plan. And also the chiller overhaul, that's still a big ticket item that's on the plan for the future to be done. That's pretty much all that went on the property.
Thank you, Mickey. How about policy,
No issues, no report.
education?
Same thing.
Okay, thank you. Does any other of the board members have anything to say?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Back to the storage tank. Understanding that most general liability policies don't cover pollution. Did we check that insurance certificate to see if it does have a pollution policy? Did we check the amounts there?
I spoke to Mr. Jacoby about that after speaking to our insurance company, and he is looking into it with his insurance company, because he bears, but he has significant insurance on the property. And he provided us an additional certificate of liability, which he really wouldn't have had to have done, so it's
Right.
pretty heavy.
It'll say on the certificate if they have pollution coverage or not. Typically, it's excluded. So if it says on the certificate he has it, if it doesn't, he doesn't.
Right, and he's going to speak to his people after I brought it up to him after speaking to our insurance company.
Okay. We should just know if he does or he doesn't.
Okay, what else, Lonnie?
I forgot already. Oh, the playground. Question for the principals, how's the scheduling going? Are you able to get the kids out to use one
It's
playground?
only you, you're the only principal.
Everyone is out at the playground at a scheduled time.
Okay,
It's working. Right now, it's working.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Chuck,
Yes.
I want to speak to consent agenda C.
Well, let's wait till we get down. You want to pull it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying I want to pull it.
I do.
Well,
We're gonna discuss
let's
it.
wait till we get to the consent agenda.
Okay.
Yeah. Karen, do you have anything to add?
No.
Carolyn?
No.
Okay. Let's go to the consent agenda then. Is there any items to pull?
See,
Obviously, C,
B.
D,
B,
B or D, I'm sorry.
Baker.
Thank you.
any other items? No? Okay. Any further discussion on that? We'll go ahead and do a motion to approve everything but items B and C.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second? Second it? Please
Oh.
do.
oh, I'm sorry. I really need to pull A.
Okay. All right.
I'm
I
sorry.
guess we'll have to revise that
I'm sorry.
motion. We have a motion to approve everything but A, B, C.
Yes, I'll make the motion.
And a second?
Yes.
Okay, can we do a roll call, please? Thank you.
Mr. Barlow,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mrs. Fuscato,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever,
Yes,
Mr. Matthews,
Yes.
Mrs. Mikesell,
Yes.
Mr. Whitcomb,
Yes.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Can we, since, we'll go ahead in alphabetical order. Pam?
I would really like to table A because I could not get into my computer at the school all weekend. I really haven't had a chance to read this handbook at all. I mean, maybe everybody else has, and then I'll defer to all of you, but I just would like to table it until the next meeting so that we have a chance to read it, or unless I'm the only one that didn't get a chance to read it.
You're making a motion to table?
Yeah,
Okay.
the server
Yes.
was down all
I'll
weekend.
second, I'll second that.
Okay.
Were there any changes to it from when it came out for the
There have
first
not been,
reading?
no.
Is it time sensitive? Is it okay to delay it without causing a problem?
We haven't had one for 4 years, so why?
Time sensitive.
What's 2 weeks?
All right,
That would be great.
we have a motion to table, and do we have a second to table? Okay, any further discussion on that? No? Okay, let's do roll call just on item A to table.
Mr. Wickham,
Yes.
Mrs. Mikesell,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiscato,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Barlow,
Yes.
Mr. Hatter.
Yes. Okay, let's go to item B, and was that you on? No, who pulled?
I pulled.
You pulled.
Oh, no,
Okay.
you did. I did see.
You're just anxious
You're
to
in
take.
you're in a rush tonight, ain't you?
Yeah, okay.
I had a couple of questions. Is it costing us any money?
It is not. The law actually states that the township has to provide us with, traffic control. We have a huge issue out here at the entrance, getting the buses out in the afternoon, which is making kids anywhere from, when we look at the bus arrival for kids, sometimes it's 15 minutes late, and it's because they've been sitting out here trying to get out. So when we talked at the property committee, I explained to them that there is a law in the book that says we can petition, the board can choose to petition the township for, traffic control. They can pay for it, they can come back and ask you to split the cost, they can come back and ask you to pay for it, but it starts with us petitioning them to have it done. So that's why,
We can say no, no, no.
you can say whatever you like.
I don't care, that's all right.
That means it's gonna cost me money.
I mean,
An accident out there will be.
Do you live in Hamilton, man?
You know, we had a kid out there, what, a year ago, was hit right out there. At that same exact spot.
Yeah.
So,
Any
Are
further
we allowed
dis-
to ask questions on this? Is
No.
that a one-sided conversation?
No, that was under public comment period.
I didn't know that.
Is there any further discussion?
What will they do if they don't have a police force?
actually, they can certify something. We have the crossing guard, which is not a traffic control person. So the traffic, a crossing guard literally cannot stop and flow traffic. All they can do is make it safe for the kids to go across. So it's not like we can send one of our custodians up here to do, traffic control, because then if an accident occurred, we would be liable.
Is the crossing guard one of our employees?
It is,
Okay,
and that's
already employed.
correct. It's one of our custodians who actually, when they arrive, they go out there and they just go on about their duties.
And that's just at this
Is there any,
crosswalk,
That is
not
just
at
a
the
crosswalk,
traffic
yeah, but
area.
That's why it's a crossing guard and not a traffic control person.
Okay.
But
Is
we're
there any-
talking about doing traffic control at the entrance to
Correct.
schools, not the crossing.
No, not the crossing. It's trying to get the buses out, coming out from the elementary in the afternoon. And in the morning, getting them in.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, no further discussion. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to reapprove.
Second it.
And we have a second. Can we do a roll call, Ms. Stevens?
Pam? Did you second that?
Agatha.
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 Thank you.
And this is item B.
Yes.
Mr. Barlow,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
yes,
Mrs. Fiscato,
Yes.
Mr. LaFever,
Yes.
Mr. Matthews,
Yes.
Mrs. Mikesell,
Yes.
Mr. Wickham,
Yes.
Mr. Hatter.
Yes. Okay. Item C. Pam, you've been waiting patiently.
Yeah, thanks. I would like to table this also. I'm not sure that I think this is such a great idea for us to get into the renting business. And I'm not sure the legality of us being allowed to rent.
Actually, I've already researched it with Stock and Leader. Because we are not using it for educational purposes, it actually is okay for us to rent it as is. And they would write the contract stating that if we could sell it, if we decide to sell it, that the tenant would have to vacate the premises within 60 days, and that they would be responsible for all upkeep and all utilities.
And we also discussed at the property meeting, to put in there too, that the tenant would have to maintain their own insurance, liability insurance, on their personal belongings and their,
Well, right, that's always the way it is, that they're responsible for their own things.
a lot of times they don't do that, they kind of forego that, but we was gonna put that in the clause that they have to do that. It's not something that they can just say, no, we're not gonna do it, they have to do it as part of the agreement.
Actually, I wasn't sure we could do it legally either, that's why I went to them first before I ever brought it to the property committee.
Is it safe to rent?
It is safe, the house is really not in that bad a shape.
Kind of new furnace in it.
will we be the managers
Well, it's our property, that's.
Well,
So it doesn't really have.
if I had a piece of property and I was renting it, I might have somebody else manage it.
Well, if you were absentee,
They've been there until 2 days.
but, I mean, we have maintenance staff.
But I presume that when something goes wrong, we'll still have to go fix the furnace.
We will, really, would anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other
The
question,
only advantage is if something went wrong now in the middle of winter,
Don't know.
somebody would tell us about it, where otherwise it would be whenever, however one of the guys got back there to check it.
I understand.
So,
I did have one other question for the principals. Any interest in development as a educational property? Have you thought about any of that?
we can respond to, I'll actually respond for them because we've already discussed this. It actually is so far, the kids couldn't walk to it, so that includes a busing situation. So right now, that's probably not the more feasible of the properties that we own for it to be used as a science area.
And we have plenty of wetlands already.
We do. Every time I turn around, we have a wetland.
Indoors or where?
It actually has a stream.
This-
That
this-
property doesn't have a stream.
This is getting to the point that I wanted to raise. We essentially task the administration with checking into the feasibility of having it used for educational purposes. And going to the teachers and collecting information on what they would use it for. But instead, we're being asked to approve a rental with no qualifier in this approval, that at some point, we will get our report and a decision will be made at a future date as to the feasibility of using the property for educational purposes. So I have a problem with the administration coming back to us with a proposal to approve a rental without first answering the feasibility in writing to the board. And I'll tell you, we keep getting blasted from the public because we're hiding information. Quite frankly, 99% of the time, we don't have the information.
Well, I'm glad they put it in writing, that the feasibility of walking kids there is unfeasible. You can't do it in a class period and get anything substantial done. So then you're going to look at transportation. We don't own a bus, that would mean running a bus from somebody to transport kids there and back. We have other property that connects this to our school that again has never been requested to be used by the teachers for any of the science areas.
Okay, well then,
Well, we did have a teacher, last year say something about.
Mrs. Surface.
Thank
Mrs.
you,
Surface,
I
who
forgot,
is-
yeah.
Who again has never looked to use any of what we currently have. We rewrote the science
Well,
curriculum, that was never a discussion that she offered to the group.
Well, maybe she wasn't aware that,
It's possible.
that this was something that was feasible for the teachers to use. I think we should put at least a survey out to the teachers just to see. before we
Downtown
make a
Fairfield's
big
considered walking
decision here.
distance.
Can I add
That
to
property's
this?
no further than downtown Fairfield.
God help us. I would not want to live in that house.
Well,
I
and
mean,
you
that-
had said that before, and I'm thinking, well,
And
what
I've
if
been
there's
out there,
mold or
I've been out there
something in
several times, I've been out there
And I
several
haven't,
times.
so I,
And not only that, we did discuss this at the property meeting this past week. We talked about this. It's not as if this is brand new about renting this place for the time being until we can sell
it
it.
was discussed by the committee on Thursday.
A couple of things, it's too far to go, it's gonna be costly to go out there. Second of all, almost everything has to be replaced in that house. The roof is in terrible shape, the upstairs, you do go upstairs, it's in bad shape.
I was up there with you.
In the cellar, I had
I
to get
didn't
out
go
of
in the cellar, I
there,
admit that.
I couldn't stand it, I had to get out of there, I had to get out of the cellar.
well, and we're
But
wanting
you're willing to rent
it?
it?
That's your recommendation, to rent it to
You know,
somebody?
The idea of a rental buys us
The
time to
first
do
floor-
a true feasibility study.
Absolutely.
If it's as bad as what people say, well, then it could be used for fire training.
And
Yeah,
Even quite
actually, yes.
And the
Well,
Fairfield
Vicki, you were
Emergency
there, you
Management
let your
Team would
mother
take it.
rent it, so-
Fairfield Fire Hall would use it for training and level it.
She said no.
If it's winterized, you don't have to heat it over the winter, if that's your problem. If you winterize the home, you take the water out, you don't have to heat it.
Well, our property committee stated that it was okay to rent.
It is, it was. We
Yes.
went out, that's why we went out there to look at it.
And to do a short-term rent, in
The
my
first
mind,
floor
was
is
it's not time to
decent.
do a real feasibility study, to look at all possible uses, not just education,
Absolutely.
whatever else we might want to do.
And that was the intent of the property committee, was to buy us some time, but at the same time, because any place that's left vacant is just gonna go to shambles.
Yeah.
Well,
So
security.
we have someone in there, we have heat in the building, then we don't have some of the mold issues, because mold is gonna sit there and grow over the winter time, if you have that. I did not visually see that. I don't know, did anybody else that was toward the place visually see mold? I've never seen any mold.
Well, I would like to just table this for 2 more weeks until the next meeting. And I would really like some kind of a survey to go out to the teachers, to get input from those teachers. 2 weeks is not going to, and if it does, if the house falls down, then it's a good thing we didn't put a renter in it. So I just think that, and that's my motion. Do I have a second?
I do not second that.
Okay, I'm just asking if
And the thing
anybody
is,
else
we-
will second it.
We have a superintendent here who's already decided that it's not feasible for the school to get involved with that house.
But again, you know, I would
So,
gladly survey the
you know-
teachers. That's
Okay,
what I'm directed
let's,
to do.
there's a motion made,
No.
there's a motion made
Well,
to
if I get no
table.
second, then
Do
we
we have,
move
do we
on.
have a second?
I'm not seconding that.
You do? Okay, we have a second from Lonnie. Let's do a roll call. This is a motion to table item C only.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiscato?
I don't want to table it.
That's a no. Mr. LaFever?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes.
Mrs. Mikesell?
Yes.
Mr. Wickham?
Yes.
Mr. Hatter?
No. Okay, it's tabled.
And I will survey the teachers, Ken.
We have
What
no-
numbers have actually been to that house?
We have no other action items.
New business?
Again, we're gonna have a short executive session afterwards. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Mr.
Yeah, second to adjourn?
They're trying to adjourn.
Oh, is it possible that I can go tour that property at some point? I apologize, I haven't.
Yes, sir, you can. You let me know when, and we'll get you in.
I should go see.
I just heard it from Attic, so
Mickey moved.
Mickey moved, we have not got a second to adjourn. Okay.
Now
And
we
they
got.
don't
All
allow
those in favor of
post
adjourning?
comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I just let me know when it's usually on.
All right.
Make it happen.
I'm assuming-
It's only assessed at